Daylight savings, Al Gore, and The Matrix are all on this day. Welcome back to On This Day. Today's date is March 31st. It is the 91st day of the year. There are 275 days left until 2020 is kaput. This is also the 14th week of the year. Today is Cesar Chavez Day. Cesar Chavez Day commemorates the life and achievements of Cesar Chavez. Cesar Estrada Chavez was a Mexican-American farm worker as well as a civil rights and labor movement activist. Chavez stood and fought for labor rights using nonviolent resistance such as boycotting and fasting. Now, growing up in Southern California, I knew all about Cesar Chavez. They taught about him in school. We knew about him. People I know from other parts of the country have never heard of him. Figured that out in the Army one day. We were all talking about it, and people like, east of Colorado had no idea who he was. This was back in the early 90s, about the time he died. I think actually that was why we started talking about him that day. Anyway, moving on. At age 17, Chavez served in the U.S. Navy for 2 years. After that, he worked in the fields until 1952 when he became the organizer of the Community Service Organization. He was also the co-founder of the National Farm Workers Association in 1962, an association which he used to create unions and lobby for better pay and safer working conditions for the farming community. Back before this, there was really no, real rules that anyone was following, and these people kind of got screwed over for a lot of years. Anyway, Chavez passed away in his sleep on April 23, 1993. In recent years, President Barack Obama proclaimed that Cesar Chavez Day would be observed on his birthday, March 31st. 1889, the Eiffel Tower is officially open. Constructed from 1887 to 1889 as the entrance of the 1889 World's Fair in Paris. It was initially criticized by some of France's leading artists and intellectuals for its design. They felt like it was a big pile of garbage. Now it's a global cultural icon of France and one of the most recognizable structures in the world. Just goes to show you that the experts aren't always right. That's one of my favorite things to read about, is when someone that's supposed to be an expert on something, they just fail. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever heard the story about the founder of FedEx. He did a college paper or his thesis or something like that, and he turned it in to his business professor, who gave it back to him with a failing grade, saying, in order to get a passing grade in my class, your theory has to be feasible. Overnight shipping will never work. And here it is today. Cracked me up. And then, the experts in Hollywood said Jaws was going to be a colossal failure. Look at it now. Moving on. 1906, the Intercollegiate Athletic Association of the United States, later known as the NCAA, is established to set rules for college sports in the United States. It's still going strong to this day. 1918, daylight savings time goes into effect in the United States for the first time. This is a practice of advancing clocks during the warmer months so that the darkness falls later each day according to the clock. Because of this, there's one 23-hour day in late winter or early spring and one 25-hour day in autumn. 1930, the Motion Picture Production Code is instituted, imposing strict guidelines on the treatment of sex, crime, religion, and violence in U.S. films. Even though the code was in place in 1935, they still used the word damn in Gone with the Wind. This created quite an uproar back in the day. The use of the word damn was a sure sign of the moral decay of the United States as they saw it. The world had gone crazy back then. People were cursing in the movies, women were voting and wearing bathing suits to the beach. It was crazy. Could you imagine showing some of them a Tarantino movie these days? Oh my god, they'd stroke out right there in the front row of the AMC theater. Film industry followed the guidelines set by the code well into the 1950s, but during this time, the code began to weaken due to the combined impact of television, influenced by foreign films, and controversial directors. In 1968, after several years of minimal enforcement, the production code was replaced by the MPAA film rating system. These days, I've started to notice a shift. People are kind of pulling away from the raunchy to get the reaction thing and actually putting out quality movies to get your attention instead of going for the violence and stuff like that. It's almost like a self-governing thing. It's just society is kind of their tastes have changed, and we don't do it that often. 1968, the American President Lyndon B. Johnson speaks to the nation of the steps to limit the war in Vietnam in a television address. At the conclusion of his speech, he announces, "I shall not seek, and I will not accept, the nomination of my party for another term as your president." Yeah, those are famous words. I think that shocked a lot of people. 1980, the Chicago Rock Island Pacific Railroad operate its final train after being ordered to liquidate its assets because of bankruptcy and debts owed to creditors. predators. That was a big thing in 1980. I remember that. And, I'm in California, and I remember reading about that. I wasn't even in trains back then. 1998, the first Matrix movie is released. This is a great movie. It stars Keanu Reeves, Lawrence Fishburne, and Carrie-Anne Moss. This is a great movie. If you've never seen it, see it. There's like 3 or 4 of them now. It's a really weird thing where these humans find out that they're unknowingly trapped inside a simulated reality, the Matrix, that's created by intelligent machines to distract the humans while they use their body as an energy source. So basically, humans are now batteries for these machines, and in order to keep the humans alive, they have to, by the way, this is a spoiler alert, they have to keep the bodies alive so the brain has to function. It's really, really intense and really neat. If you've never seen it, I kind of spoiled it for you just now, but go see it. Or not go see it, rent it, whatever you gotta do. Born on March 31st, 1927, like we talked about earlier, Cesar Chavez, American labor union leader and activist. 1943, Christopher Walken, American actor, is born. He's great. He has appeared in more than 100 movies and television shows and has become known to younger audiences in the last decade or so for his Saturday Night Live cowbell skit and all the memes that have gone along with it. He's also appeared in the movies Catch Me If You Can, which is great, Pulp Fiction, which was amazing, Hairspray, not a fan, Eddie the Eagle, which is a great story, not that greatest movie, and A View to a Kill, James Bond movie. Love his work, love his voice, love so many things about that man. 1948, Al Gore, American soldier and politician, the 45th Vice President of the United States and Nobel Prize laureate, born on March 31st. Died on March 31st, 1978, Charles Herbert Best, American-Canadian biochemist who co-discovered insulin. He died at the age of 79. 1995, we lost Selena, Mexican-American singer-songwriter. She's murdered on this day at age 23 by her fan club's president, Yolanda Saldivar, at the Days Inn in Corpus Christi, Texas, after accusations that Saldivar was embezzling money from Selena's fan club and her clothing store. It's pretty sad. That idiot Yolanda Saldivar, she's never admitted it. She said that, it was some other thing, it was an accident, the gun went off. Why'd she have a gun? She'd been accused of stealing and embezzling, and then she went out and bought a gun a couple days later, disappeared, then came back and asked to meet in a hotel room. And magically, the gun goes off and kills the person who's accusing her of embezzling. Most people think that she was just an obsessed fan that was working for the person she's obsessed with, and this was getting her thrown out of Selena's life, and she couldn't take it, so she shot her. Pretty sad story. 2019, just last year, we lost Nipsey Hussle, American rapper. Now, Nipsey Hussle is from South Central Los Angeles. He's a famous rapper, especially for the area and stuff like that. He was shot 10 times by some guy that he had a personal problem with. That guy, Eric Holder, is now in jail in protective custody, and from everything I've read, the second he's not in protective custody, he's probably going to be dead. Anyway, Nipsey Hussle did a lot of things over the years to help youth get away from gun violence and things like that. He was a community leader, even though he had a pretty, sketchy past. It's too bad. All right, so that is March 31st. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you got some information out of it. Don't forget all the links below. Give the video a big thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.